Hi, David Moore and Tom Moore today. I'm very happy to have my brother here with us today. Guys don't get to see him very often. You're stuck looking at me all the time. But I'm going to have some conversations about a few different topics that are occurring right now, and one of them is extensions. It seems like we've got disasters everywhere. So with a disaster comes an extension, and you're the one that deals with that side of the business. So would you like to share your thoughts on some of these, Tom?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year with respect to extensions. We've had a lot of them issued in the last say 18 months or so, and the IRS has been pretty liberal with them. For example, a lot of times when we get an extension, it'll apply to just a county or two that's an affected area. We saw in Florida and I believe in Georgia also, where they issued extensions to the entire state. Those have passed, but California, we got extensions when we had the recent storms down there. There was an extension issued initially, and then they gave at least 2 updates that I know of where they added more and more counties to those extensions. And in fact, those are transactions or extensions that will be affecting transactions for California investors all the way up to sales that occur into September of this year. So people who have sales or who are considered to be affected taxpayers may get longer extensions or longer ID periods than the normal 45 days, all the way up until closings that happen in September. So yeah, it's those are the most recent ones we have, but it's been an interesting year.
So if people have questions on that, Tom, we can get them information, and then they would go and talk to their tax people, or what's sort of the course of action for somebody that feels that they might be affected by one of these?
Yes, they can certainly call us up. We will give them links to the appropriate sites, the IRS webpage, and also the appropriate sections in the IRS codes that deal with extensions. We cannot tell people whether or not they or make that decision whether or not they are an affected taxpayer or what those extension dates will be. We can provide them with the information, and then they will determine whether they and their tax and legal people will determine whether or not they have those extensions available to them. And then basically they will provide us with their new 45 and 180-day deadlines for the exchanges.
Great. So just to refresh everybody's memory on this, you don't have extensions available just electively ever in a 1031 exchange. So you can't just say, well, gee, this property sold and I can't get it, so I get more time or whatever might happen. So the only way you're going to be granted an extension is if you're an affected taxpayer in one of these situations.
Yeah, well, you can be an affected taxpayer, or you can there are extensions that are available to people that are not considered to be an affected taxpayer, but it may be a transaction that happens in a certain area, or they've got properties picked out that they're acquiring in a certain area that has been affected by the disaster.
So the two of us have been in this business for over 30 years at this point, 32 years at this point. And if we look at, for example, the Northwest, I mean, I can only remember 2 ever issued here. I mean, and they were both in the same year, weren't they? I mean,
yeah, we don't have them much here. We had the most recent were the fires.
And that was right after COVID, which was basically a big fire, right?
Yeah.
So, but those were really the only 2 that I can remember in the Northwest.
Yep.
So if you're looking for extensions, go pick a hurricane zone or someplace like that, I guess. But it's really a tough deal, obviously. But there are definitely situations where people, like Tom's saying, an affected taxpayer can be granted an extension.
Yeah.
And I think you made a critical comment. They're going to talk to their tax people about it. And I think this is just one more example of why. I mean, I always say I feel like good tax counsel are probably the most important people in somebody's life these days, just especially with another 85,000 new people being hired to chase people on these situations.
Exactly. Yeah. No, they need their tax help. They need some good tax and legal advice or advisors anytime they're doing the transactions. We certainly we think we differentiate ourselves in the fact that we give people a lot of information, but we cannot give advice, so to speak. So. Yeah, we'll give you the information to make you dangerous, and then you can go out and talk it over with your tax and legal people and make the decisions that are right for you.
Well, thank you for that explanation, Tom, and it's great to have you here. We're going to sign off for a second. We'll be right back. David Moore and Thomas Moore of Equity Advantage, 1031exchange.com. Thank you.